Okay, I think we're good to go. We are just about ready to launch. So, and we've got a quorum of people. We're up to nearly 100 people in the room now. So, welcome everybody. We are going to get going here momentarily with this week's Webinar Wednesday. Now, Webinar Wednesday has gone through a lot of adventures the last couple of weeks as we going back almost a month ago. It was a month ago that we tried to do the webinar that we're going to do today, and that was the beginning of an incredible journey of webinar disasters that we had here on dottotech. It all started when our jam started having audio issues. And those of you who are trusting us to come back and take this webinar again after all of the audio issues that we had a couple of weeks ago, thank you so much. So what happened is we were actually about to launch a new course at the same time. So we made a switch over and we started to use Zoom at that point there. We've been using Webinar Jam forever. And so we've been learning a lot about using Zoom, and we've been using Zoom almost exclusively now for the last month. We've done a lot of webinars in Zoom. I think we got a handle on it. We've MacGyvered a system for recording the webinars, which we'll be doing. So you'll get access to those of you who want to see the replay. Will get access to replay, and we're doing well. So let me do some introductions. I am Steve Dotto. This is Webinar Wednesday. We've got April and Jen in the room with us. They will be monitoring things, helping you guys out, answering questions, and dealing with any issues that may arise that I cannot deal with. The structure of today's webinar is we're going to be talking about my favorite mobile apps, and I broke them into 10, and I broke them into a few categories. But what we'll do is, so that you can actually see the apps, it would be very difficult for me to share them in a live setting like this. I pre-recorded a demo where I walk through all 10 apps. And then I think we're going to have a really active discussion today, because I know that you folks will share apps that you like and questions about apps, and you've all got the apps in different areas. Now, almost all of the apps that I'm going to show you are both iOS and Android. There's a few that are only in one platform or the other, but I've given you alternatives when I do that. Now, big shout out and a thanks to our patrons at Patreon. This show is made possible because of the support we get from our community at Patreon. We'll fill you in a little bit later on in the broadcast about just what Patreon is all about. But if you are a patron of this show of dottotech, you get access to the webinar replays once we are all said and done. Actually, if you are a patron, just let us know in the chat. Say, hey, I'm a patron. Just kind of let us know there so we can at least emotionally send some support and big hugs to you, because we appreciate it ever so much. There's Bill saying I'm one. Thank you so much. So what happens with this webinar itself is it's free live right now. We keep it free for 48 hours and available. Then after that, we archive it for the benefit of our patrons. And this is number 16. So we've got 15 great training tutorial webinars that are available for our patrons. And we'll fill you in on that once we're all said and done. And oh, look here. We got Bill. We've got Greg. We've got... I was going to say April, but April I was just saying thank you to all of our patrons. But thank you very much to you, because you guys make it possible for us to do this by giving us ongoing support, which we appreciate hugely. So I think we're just about ready to jump into the meat of today's broadcast, which is the video. Now, the chat doesn't work in Zoom. Once I guess you can turn on your chat. Can we? I can't remember now. I'm having a brain fart.
Yeah, no, chat works. Chat works. Okay. Just the Q&A. If you have a specific question, if you can add it to the Q&A section, because the chat is a little bit different than Webinar Jam for us to get back and manage. We want to make sure we get your questions answered.
Got it. So we'll be in chat. We will. This is a fairly short video. It's only 24 minutes or so. So it's my top 10 mobile apps. Interested to hear what your top apps are. I think it's time for us to jump into the demo part, and we'll see you on the other side of the video. All right, it is time for us to take a look at my top 10 mobile apps. Now, I've broken these down into 5 different areas. 4 different areas. Productivity, personal, security, work-related, and then we will talk a little bit about fun apps, but probably after this pre-recorded part of the webinar. Now, fear not, regardless which platform you're on, we are covering both Android and iOS apps. As a matter of fact, 9 of the 10 apps that I'm going to be showing you today are on both platforms. The one which is not on both platforms, I will show you a similar, every bit as good Android product. So we're equal opportunity employers today as far as the operating system of your smartphone is concerned. So we'll begin by looking at productivity, and these are gonna be pretty quick demos. We've got 10 products to look at. So even if I spend like 2.5 minutes on each, that's 25 minutes of time spent just looking at the products, not mentioning getting in and out. So we're gonna have to kind of buzz through kind of at the just looking at the top level, and I'll kind of talk to you about what really resonates for me with each of these apps, if that works for you. So we're going to begin in the productivity space, and I think we'll just begin alphabetically with Agora Pulse. Now, we talked about Agora Pulse a couple of weeks ago here in Webinar Wednesday, and it's a social media dashboard. And the reason that we've chosen it to use with dottotech is it is such an excellent conversation manager, managing all of our social conversations, especially those in Twitter and Facebook, but also in Instagram. And it's also a team-based tool, allowing us to work as a team and to assign different responsibilities. If Jen sees a tweet that I should be replying to, she can assign it to me. Now, another big strength of Agora Pulse is the mobile app that it has, because it really reflects what we do on the desktop. So it allows you to really save a lot of time, because just being able to open up Agora Pulse when I'm sitting there waiting for an appointment, be able to clear off several social posts and several conversations, the way you would say just texting or just dealing with your friends through instant messaging, that's to me one of the real beauties of Agora Pulse. And if we take a look here, we see when I tap on the side, we see that I have the different profiles that we have set up. Now, we just have dottotech profiles, but if you were managing accounts, you'd have many, many profiles available here. And you can see I can just go in and I can see all of the different Twitter comments that we should be dealing with. Now, if I want to go through and take a look at this and say, this person says, amen, I can just tap on that, and I made a comment on something, notifications are killing your productivity and make it stop. He said, amen, I could just favorite that right here. And I go back, and now that has been dealt with. So now when Jen goes to check our Facebook feed later, she won't see that post. It'll have been dealt with. So we're able to deal with it this quickly and this effectively. If you see there in the assigned, I'm a good boy right now. I have nothing assigned to me. But if Jen sees anything that I should be dealing with, so for example, let's say Andrea, she was sharing out a webinar that we have coming up, which I appreciate. I'm going to give a heart to. But I can also assign this to Jen and have her have to deal with it and maybe send a thanks to Andrea. So this way here, we can manage the flow of the conversations within Agora Pulse. Now, this app does far more than this, but this alone, managing conversations, is the biggest reason that I have Agora Pulse on my smartphone, and it will always be a part of my smartphone. A big fan of what Agora Pulse brings as far as managing our social conversations. That is app number 1 of my productivity mix. Now, the next app that I'm going to do, is we'll continue alphabetically, is Asana, which we use for all of our project management here on dottotech. Again, it's a team-based tool, and here I have the ability to be able to go in and to be able to manage all of the tasks that we have assigned in Asana. In the desktop version of Asana, we have access to here. And just by swiping across, I can mark tasks as done, I can delete them, I can create new tasks for me, just here, which creates an instant task that I have to deal with. It reflects all of the tasks that we have within Asana that our team has in Asana. And for me, being able to jump in and quickly find the information that I need about any task that I'm working on, as opposed to actually working on the task. Because typically speaking, when I'm doing something that's task related, I'm at my desktop or notebook computer, because a task is like writing a blog post or doing an outline for a video or those sorts of things. So they're typically not things that I'm going to do on my phone, but seeing what my tasks are on the phone is very useful. And also, one thing I really like doing is creating tasks for other people when I'm on my smartphone. That's something that is just terrific. So regardless of which productivity apps you use, especially which project management or time or task management apps you use, make sure there is a full-featured app available to you for that tool on the smartphone. So products like Todoist, they've got them. Asana certainly has it. Don't just use ones that are less valuable, I think, are ones that just give you web access through a web browser to the task manager, but instead ones that have dedicated apps, I think you're going to find are going to perform an awful lot better. So number 2 on my list is Asana. Agora Pulse, then Asana. While we're on the idea of managing teams and team tasks, Slack is our team conversation manager, and it is also a must-have on my smartphone, and it works for us the same way that we would find the same way that really Agora Pulse does, in the same way Messenger. It manages all of the conversations that happen between team members. And you can see I've got all of the different threads of all of the different topics that we cover here on dottotech here, as well as direct access to any of the team members here, so that I can quickly send a message to Jen saying meeting later today. Today she will get this momentarily, and we will talk about Facebook ads. So you can see, and so it's working just as a messenger app would work here. And of course, any message that comes through is going to parallel come through on my smartphone as well as on my desktop or mobile or notebook, where I've got Slack installed. So Slack as a conversation management tool for us, absolutely essential. And the version on the smartphone, just it's second nature. I just expect to have it there working all the time, and it's the way that it's like having everybody on the team kind of sitting right next to you. Oh, she just sent it back. Are you asking? Yes. Can we chat in an hour? There we go. We'll see. This will be good. She doesn't know I'm recording her right now. I should have probably done a disclaimer. Oh well. We will deal. Okay, so that is Slack on the smartphone, the third of my must-have productivity apps. Now, the next app that I want to take you into is the one app which is only available in iOS, and it is Scannable for Evernote. Now, it's a scanning app, an image capture app, but it does such a brilliant job of capturing pages and papers and documents and business cards, etc. To see how it automatically framed the document that I wanted to capture, and then comes up with an image of it ready for us to manage in any way that we want. And the thing that I love about Scannable is this image now we can save it to Evernote. We can edit it in a variety of different ways, but we can also share it with other individuals directly from within the app. But the beauty is to just go save, watch this, save it, and it's synced to my Evernote account. So I can take that receipt, I can sync it directly into my accounting notebook and save it. I could add tags and I can add notes, but now it's been stored in Evernote. Scannable is absolutely a genius scanning tool that makes it effortless to capture receipts, business card, documents, whiteboards, anything, and it's especially relevant if you want to sync it to Evernote. Now, it is the one iOS-only app that we're talking about, but if you are not in iOS, if you are an Android, and especially if you are a OneNote user as opposed to an Evernote user, then Office Lens from Evernote is every bit, I've got to select the type. It's a document, there we go, is every bit the equal, there we go, I can just capture the document, and you see how it's framed it just as effectively as did Scannable. And now in this particular case now, Office Lens syncs brilliantly with OneNote. So even if you're on iOS, but you're a OneNote user as opposed to an Evernote user, the ability to scan in documents and save them directly to OneNote using Office Lens, every bit as good, in my opinion, as Scannable. So there you're winner, chicken dinner, regardless of which of these apps you choose. Now, I've mentioned it several times. I'd be remiss to not point out the fact that Evernote in mobile is an absolute genius product. It is, especially in iOS now. They've upgraded the iOS version. The Android version is still kind of lagging one version behind, but I'm sure it'll leapfrog the iOS version shortly. But Evernote within iOS is the ability to have all of your stuff wherever you are and whenever you are. If you joined us last week for our Evernote, for discovering Evernote, our webinar in Evernote, you know that Evernote's strength is the fact that all of your little bits of information is stored in the cloud and you have access to it from all of your devices. And the one that you need it with the most is when you're out and running about, is being able to access any of your content from the Evernote app on your smartphone, and they have done a great job of allowing us to find it. So there's those new documents that I just scanned right in. They're available to me right now. Now, one of the things that I like about Evernote, so if I look at some of the additional things, is its ability to capture information. So I mentioned to you, I showed you how to capture information using Scannable, but you can also capture voice memos, audio memos, you can create reminders, or you can capture photos, use it as an image camera, right within Evernote itself. And there it's got the ability, and it will demark what type of document it thinks you're looking at, especially for things like business cards. And it will allow you to store them in a variety of different formats. So when we turn on the auto mode, it will automatically decide what type of document it is you are capturing. When you capture it, oh, that's going to be really blurry. It's going to want to retake it. There we go. It's in it. See here, we've got this drop down saying, is it a photo? Is it a document? Is it a color document, a business card, or post-it note? So it allows you to, after you've captured the image, to determine what type of document it is before you store it in Evernote. Really nice, really simple, very effective. I switch back and forth. I tend to use Scannable most of the time because it's just so quickly accessible and you don't have to go from within the Evernote app. But when you are in Evernote, its ability to vacuum up information, I consider this to be an information vacuum using the Evernote camera, is brilliant. And don't forget how useful those voice memos are as well. For meetings and stuff, it can be incredibly valuable from that perspective. So that is a look at Evernote. So that's our productivity mix. We've got Agora Pulse for managing social. We've got Asana for managing all of our projects. We've got Slack for managing our team conversations. We've got Evernote for managing everything else, for basically collecting all of our data. And then we've got Scannable or Office Lens, which work as great information vacuums, sucking up images from all over the world and storing them so that we can recall them when we need it. I think that is just a great mix of productivity tools. Now, the next one that I want to take you to is I want to take you into the personal space. And there's two tools that I really appreciate. Now, one of them is Google Photos. Now, I've chosen to use Google Photos. And, you know, in the photo world, storing your images and backing up your photos can be really problematic. But Google Photos, if you use kind of standard high resolution, you don't use, if you don't take all of your pictures in camera raw format, but if you just take high resolution pictures, then Google Photos will allow you to store an unlimited number of photos in the cloud in your Google account. And every time you open Google Photos, it automatically syncs across. So all of the photos that I have in my camera roll are now synced to Google Photos, which means when I open it, Google Photos on my computer, from my Google account on my computer, I have access to all my photos and I can turn them into collections. I can share them. I have them backed up. I have them stored. Google Photos, to me, is one of the great kind of almost hidden benefits of your Google account. Most people don't realize how useful and how much security Google Photos ends up giving you by storing all of your photos for you for free in the cloud so that you can gain access to them from all of your devices. Google Photos for me is as I say, one of the great, almost hidden benefits of Google accounts. Now, that's images. I walk my dog on a daily basis. And one of the things I do when I walk my dog is I listen to podcasts. I listen to podcasts like crazy. And the podcast manager that's built into the iPhone is just okay. This tool called Overcast, which is a free podcast manager, I really like. This is a tool which I have come to rely on. And here's some of the things that I like about it. First of all, it does a great job of just managing your collection of podcasts so that you can see exactly what you have and what's new, what you want to be listening to. So let's imagine that we want to listen to one of my good friend Mike Stelzner's podcasts. And we call it up here. And let's choose starting a YouTube channel. That looks like it might be just a great one. And if I was to start playing that, well, let me ask, before I start playing it, let me just go back and show you what I can do with it. Because not just playing it, although it's great to be able to play it, but if you just tap on the image, you can slide back and forth from this splash screen to view all of the notes about the podcast itself. But look at this. This is one of the genius parts. This speed control. You can listen to podcasts at 1.5 or 2x speed and blast your way through tons of great content in far less time than it would take to listen to it played back just at normal speed. So here you can customize per podcast or for your overall global settings just how fast it's going to play back. And they've also got something called Smart Speed, which will shorten silences and just kind of clip down silences to again, tighten up the amount of time it takes you to listen to a podcast. And they've got the voice boost, which basically smooths out the voices and just makes the podcast sound a little bit richer, especially if you have a lower quality audio podcast. And especially when you're starting to play it faster, it makes it just a little bit easier. It takes off some of those upper edges on voices that are sped up. You know how when you really speed one up, everybody sounds like a chipmunk. It kind of takes the edge off the chipmunkedness of the audio. And there's also something which I find useful, which is a sleep timer that you can turn on, so you can tell the podcast to turn off after 30 minutes. If, like me, you tend to listen to podcasts occasionally as you're going to sleep, and you fall asleep 5 minutes in, and then you don't know how much of the podcast you heard, you at least know that it stops playing after 30 minutes. So there, Overcast, one of my personal use tools that I really like. So in the personal space, Google Photos must have. Overcast, if you listen to podcasts, it's a great idea. By the way, if you're watching these videos that we play back, our webinars on YouTube, you can also speed up the YouTube playback speed to double time and get through these webinars in half the time than it would normally take as well. Just a little ninja tip there as well. Next up, let's get into the world of security. And in the world of security, I've used all of the different apps. And people ask me which one I prefer. I don't actually prefer any one, but I end up using more often, just because of how it's all come together, Lastpass, because it was the first one that I had set up. But I've tested out 1Password. I've used other apps. They're all great in both mobile and in the desktop version. But this one here, Lastpass, is the one that I end up using myself. Now, I'm going to be having to blur the whole screen here, unfortunately. But what Lastpass does on the smartphone is it allows me to very quickly gain access to a lot of my different accounts. For example, for banking accounts where I've got very elaborate passwords, I can store them here in the Lastpass vault, use my fingerprint ID or a high-quality password in order to get access to all of my different passwords. Just I only have to remember then one good password. And that allows me to gain access to all of my different financial accounts, my banking accounts, all of that sort of information. It allows me to gain access to quickly right from within the smartphone. So LastPass for me, as a security tool on my smartphone, is the essential tool that I like to use. Now, let's talk about work-related stuff for a moment, because I've got a couple of pretty cool work-related tools. Now, depending on what industry you're in, you're going to have different work-related apps that may or may not work for you. But for me, there are two that I want to show you. The first one is a simple, it's just YouTube's Video Studio. It's their Studio app, which allows you to control all aspects of your YouTube account. So, oh, there we go. It's having a little bit of issue connecting for some reason. Give it a second here. Of course, there we go. For some reason, it didn't come out. This is the first time it's ever done that. But here I can see the dashboard, which gives me the top-level analytics of what's happening on my channel. I see how my latest videos are performing. I can see all of the comments that I have. And the beauty is I can go in and I can do emergency surgery to a video. For example, I often make little typos, and now I find out about it when I'm not sitting near a notebook. I can go in and I can edit my actual video posts right here within this app. But more common, the thing that I actually do a lot more of, is the ability to be able to go into the comments area and to be able to reply to all of the comments and to be able to engage in conversations in the YouTube comment area. So similar to what Agora Pulse brings as far as managing all of our social conversations, here I'm able to manage all of the conversations related to YouTube directly within here. Now you can do that, say with Agora Pulse is adding the ability to manage all of your YouTube conversations, and I might want to do that from Agora Pulse in the future. But for the most important social platforms that you deal in, it's not a bad idea to be able to get in and access to the conversations in the native app. And this gives me native direct access to the conversations happening on my YouTube channel. So this is something that I really appreciate and that I end up using an awful lot, is the YouTube Studio app, which allows you to manage your entire Creator Studio for YouTube right from your smartphone. And again, both Android and iOS. That one is a complete winner. Now, this one, you might have seen the video that I showed on it before, or you might not have seen it. And let me just find it here. It is there. There it is. It's called PromptSmart. This is one of the more expensive apps that I think I have on my smartphone. I think it was $27. This is an intelligent teleprompter, and I use this on both my tablet, on my iPad, and on my iPhone. But let me show you what it does. Is I'm going to import a script, and I'm going to import it from Google Drive, so it's synced to my Google Drive, and I'm going to go into my scripts here. Sorry, Google Drive. Let me go into, there we go, into, I have to find the right folder. There it is, scripts. There's my script folder. So let's just say that it's going to be for the Scannable demo that I did. I'm going to create, so I've written the document in Google Drive. There it is. It's written in Google Drive, so they're all written just in as a normal Google Doc. I'm going to save this now. When I save it, it saves it as a script format within PromptSmart. Now watch what happens. I've got settings here where I can choose the color of the background, the speed, and all sorts of things. But if I just hit play here, what it does is it calls up a teleprompter delivery, which listens to what I have to say, and then it will scroll the text based on what I'm saying. So watch it now. Scannable. Steve Dotto here, and today on the 1 Minute Tech Tip, my favorite scanning app on the iPhone, Scannable. There are a ton of good scanning apps, and I can't tell you why I like Scannable so much, but I do. It comes from the folks at Evernote, and if I'm honest, I mainly use it for one thing, scanning in receipts, but it will scan anything from magazine. Isn't that impressive? This is just the coolest app for doing any sort of video where you've got a very limited team. In other words, just yourself or just you and a videographer shooting you, but not having to purchase and not having to set up a full-on teleprompter. Your smartphone or your tablet can go right on top of the lens of your camera. When I'm doing it here, when I'm using it in my studio setup here, I just put my iPhone right above where the camera lens is, and then I've got almost direct eyeline access to my teleprompter, so that for short little 1 minute videos like where I want to stay word perfect on script, it's absolutely been a game changer for me. Scannable, a work app, which is one of my top 10 apps, one of my favorite apps. It's growing into one of my favorite apps of all time. Oh, sorry, I said Scannable. It's called PromptSmart. PromptSmart is the app. And that, I think, folks, is my top 10 list. Let me see if I got it right. Agorapulse, Scannable, Asana, Slack, Evernote, Google Photos, Overcast, Lastpass, PromptSmart, and YouTube Studio. That's it. 10 of Steve's top apps. Now, I know you've got a lot of apps that you think are amazing, and that's what we're going to be sharing next as we get into the Q&A section here in today's Webinar Wednesday. There we go. That was good. Lots of fun. All right. So did you learn something? Now, this is where those of you who participated in this webinar about a month ago, this is where we went off the rails completely, because as soon as we got into the Q&A and started dealing with questions and answers, the audio went to hell in a handbasket, and that was it. It was game over. So now we can actually have the conversation and follow up and discover which apps you guys like and answer your questions. So, Jen, I saw you. Did it bother you that you texted me in the middle of my demo?
Oh, no, you sent me the message.
I know, but then you replied.
Yes. No, it didn't bother me. I remember getting that message though, because it was not your normal conversation starter. It just said meet in an hour. I thought, what did I do? I mean, I'm grounded. What did I?
Yeah, good. Okay, so here's what it is. We are, folks. So I'm hoping that there's some, because of the way we set up the webinar today, I actually can't see the Q&A. So we're going to get Jen or April to fire me off the questions and comments, and I'd love to hear which apps you guys are using, what your thoughts are. We had a little bit of a conversation during the webinar about Google Photos and asking what the cost is. And so thanks so much to Peggy. She was filling in, doing all sorts of filling in.
She's like doing her job for us. Like every time I come back with a link, I'm like, she already has it in there.
Oh, she was on top of it all. But she took it literally. She actually put in the pricing of Google stuff, whereas I think the question was more, what are we paying for Google? In other words, our privacy. That's one of the issues around Google Photos, is Google then has access to your photos and all of your images, and we should be concerned about that. That's something you should be concerned about. So you have to balance the convenience and cost savings of having and security of having all your photos backed up in Google, and what sort of information can they glean from the photos, and do you care? I mean, one of the things about what's happening in the advertising world, what would happen with Facebook ads, now, if you go and search for car rentals in Toronto, which I was just doing this morning, Now on Facebook, all my ads are cars in Toronto to rent. So would you rather have that relevant advertising where they know what you're interested in, not necessarily who you are, but what you're interested in? So that's kind of the question, the balancing act that we're dealing with a lot of privacy concerns right now. But what questions are being asked? Oh, before we do that, I do have something else I need to share. Sorry, I want to let you know what's coming up next week. So let me just go back into screen share for just a moment, and I'll fill you in on next week's webinar Wednesday. Now, how am I doing this? There we go. Is that working? Yes, it is. Looks good. Okay, so remember, this replay of the video that we've just had today will be available to you for 48 hours. We will send you out some emails reminding you of that. And then after 48 hours, they expire unless you're one of our patrons supporting us on Patreon. Next week, we're going to be doing our show live. I'm going to be in Toronto. So I'm going to do it live from Toronto. So I'll be doing it with my notebook. It'll be an adventure. And it's going to be a bit of a different webinar. It's one that I've been kind of kicking around in my mind for a little while. We have a kind of a unique way that we built our Twitter following. Twitter's not my favorite social app. I got to admit, it's not one that I absolutely love, but it's ever so effective in helping to grow your brand and to grow your community. So we have built our Twitter following with OPC, other people's content. We do quite a bit of our own content, but the real growth and the real success of our Twitter channel, I think a lot of it's come from other people's content. And I don't necessarily treat Twitter the way that I treat other social apps. I don't do as much engagement. Jen does most of the engagement with the community on Twitter, but we primarily use Twitter as an advertising platform where we use it to grow our community. So this is very much in the social system playbook area. If you're interested in building a brand in social media marketing, online marketing, that sort of stuff, next week's webinar is going to be for you. Now, we will get the link out to you in the newsletter that goes out tomorrow. We will make sure that the first links are in so you can register, and we will, of course, be sending out reminders. But if you're interested next week, we're going to be building Twitter with OPC, other people's content. And we've actually come up with a really good killer system to do it. I'll be sharing that with you folks next week from Toronto, the center of the universe.
Is that how they say it?
Sorry, that's how we say it in Canada. We go Toronto. Yeah, one of our sayings.
Like
okay.
Boston.
Here's a reminder that if you are finding value in these webinars, one of the reasons that we can do these tutorial webinars where we just deal with really good, valuable content is the support we have from our community at Patreon. Patreon is crowdfunding, but for content creators. So it's kind of like Kickstarter, but it's an ongoing support that our community gives us. And there's now something like 600 of you that are supporting dottotech through Patreon. And what we ask for is $10 a month. And in return, you get access to all of our archive content as well as some extra perks that are part and parcel of what happens here on dottotech. And I'm sure Jen or April will drop the link in so you can see it. It's just patreon.com/dottotech. But we've got 16 videos now, everything from overcoming email overload to how to use Facebook video to my own personal productivity systems to starting a YouTube channel. All of these webinars and all of these tutorials are part of the Patreon archives now. As well, you get access to our Evernote Made Easy course, and you get half price on all of our other courses, our premium courses. And we have a lot of our patrons that have joined us, for example, for our next, for the course that we're teaching right now, which is Winning at Webinars, where we teach them how to deliver really premium webinars. So we thank you all very much for the support. I know that it seems every week we get a few new people coming on board. So welcome aboard to everybody that's joining us and to all of our patrons. We got to send so much thanks because the one thing we do with it's nice to know where your money goes, I think. And since Patreon is our community, we use it to support the dottotech community. So all of the money that you give us goes into actually the salary to pay our team. So our team is almost 100% now funded by our support on Patreon, and that's very exciting for all of us. So on behalf of Jen and April and Liz and all the rest of them, we thank you all so much for your support on Patreon. So that is just awesome sauce. So interesting, the mouse stops working at some point there. Good. Okay, we're back. Now it's time for the Q&A. We got lots of time for Q&A.
Wait, I have a question from Facebook.
Oh, what? We got us. Oh, are we? Oh, yeah, we've been streaming. Yes.
Yes, we've been streaming the whole time. So yes, and it's been sitting there the whole 5 minutes in. Stuart had a question, and I hope he's still there. I know he might not be. We still have 20 people, so he may still be here. Stuart, if you are, thank you. But he wants to know why have different apps to talk to the same team members. So this question came in when you were talking about having Slack and Asana and all of that. So maybe just differentiating.
That's kind of our productivity system. So we use Slack to control all of our projects. All assigned tasks are in Slack. So it's a project manager. Asana is. Slack is where we have conversations, where we chat back and forth, and it's like instant messenger, but Slack replaces Skype Instant Messenger, which is where April used to try and connect with me all the time. It replaces Facebook Messenger, which is where Jen used to try and connect with me all the time. It replaces email, which both of them used to try and connect with me all the time. So we replace all of those with a single interface using Slack for all of that. So it's a unified messaging product so that you don't have your conversations all over the map. And it took us a while to get everybody on board. It took us a while to get everybody
like a control freak.
Sorry?
Kind of makes you sound like a control freak.
And I'm not, but about things like this, I am, because it's best for a team because last thing we want is to miss important conversations. So we use Slack for everything. Now, sometimes for emergency, we still will text each other occasionally and things like that. We had a disaster a couple of weeks ago where a piece of technology failed on us, and I had to let April know, and she wasn't on Slack at that moment because Slack it's an app. So I texted her. So we still have kind of an emergency contact protocol. But for the most part, Slack is where the conversations take place. Asana is where tasks get done and get completed. And if I occasionally ask people to do something in Slack, it's hard on them because they've got to go back into Slack and find where I've said it. When it's an assigned task in Asana, it's very easy for them to find. It's very easy for me to know where they are in the process of doing it. So there's a nice demarcation between the two. We've done my personal productivity system, the webinar we did on that, we show that. And I think we actually have planned coming up in a couple of weeks. We're going to be doing a complete webinar on our task and on using Asana and how we use it to manage all of the different tasks that we do on our team. So that'll be a good webinar. Good.
All right. That's all I have from Facebook so far. So
that was good.
Hey, but we got one.
Thanks for that on Facebook Live.
So our friend Kurt is asking, several of the iOS apps I use regularly seem to have been abandoned by their developers or the development company has folded.
Yeah.
These apps are not 64-bit, so they will not run at all of the forthcoming iOS 11. This might block me from upgrading to iOS 11. I have looked, but there aren't any other apps that have features I like. Are others seeing this also, or am I a Luddite?
I think, well, first of all, I'd love to put in the apps that you're looking for, because somebody might have one that's similar that they use. But we've seen this a couple times, and it's very disappointing when this happens. So either an app company builds their product, gets you kind of on board trusting them, and then they go away because they don't have a good financial model, which is one of the reasons I'm always willing to pay for the apps that I use. Like, people complain about the cost of Evernote. I'll always be happy to pay for Evernote because it's an app I use. I want them to be profitable and in business. But there's another challenge that happens with some apps is we get to know, use, and love an app like Wunderlist or like Sunrise Calendar, and then big, mean, bad Microsoft comes along and buys them and basically takes some of their features, rolls them into other products, and then abandons us all who have used those products. And so that happens. Now, Microsoft isn't bad on all things, but they were very naughty boys and girls on this particular instance, especially Sunrise Calendar. We still mourn its loss. A moment of silence, please. It's not silent, April.
I know.
Giggling in a moment of silence is like one of the rudest things you can do.
It's a very bad habit, actually. I giggle at church. I giggled at my wedding giving vows. Yeah, I'm terrible.
Okay,
it's nerves.
We'll forgive you on that. Yes. Okay. So yeah, Kirk. So put them in. Oh, he's got them. Put them in the chat, and so if I see anything that we know is similar, it'll be good to know. But yeah, that's one of the challenges of trusting app developers. We've got to be kind of agile in our commitment to them.
Okay. It looks like Steve may have started to ask a question about Scannable, but it didn't come all the way through. So Steve, if you want to continue your question, we'll get it answered later in the Q&A. So Colin is asking.
Has a great point. Toronto is Hogtown. That's the name of it. You know why it's called Hogtown?
Why? You got a lot of pigs up
Because
there?
there used to be stockyards, and they used to put them through. Just like it was very similar to Chicago. It was a kind of a rail hub, and they had big stockyards where they were moving livestock through all the time. Hogtown. It's also called Toronto the Good because they used to have laws that they would roll up the sidewalks at a certain time at night, and you could have no retail on Sundays. And that was until very recently. Toronto the Good. They also call it the center of the universe because they think they are the center of the universe.
It sounds like an identity crisis to me.
Toronto's an awesome city. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, no, they've been many things to many people.
Sounds like it.
All right. So our friend Colin is asking, why do you prefer Scannable to the native camera functionality in Evernote?
Everybody asks me that, and it's a great question. When I'm in Evernote, I'm happy with the native functionality. Scannable is more accessible more quickly, so it's quicker to capture things like receipts and things like that. And also, when you capture something in Scannable, it's far easier to share it with other people or with other apps right out of Scannable. When you capture it in Evernote, it's kind of captured in Evernote, and then you have to kind of export it in some way or another. Whereas with Scannable, if I was taking a picture of a receipt, I could send it to you instantly as an attachment, say in a text or email. So it's a little more flexible from that perspective. But they are very close in how they work. Additionally, people that don't use Evernote can still use Scannable. So those are the reasons.
Okay. Any news that Scannable may come to Android?
Well, it was news of that. Peggy, I think it was Peggy, dropped a link in, and it looks like it might not be Scannable, but they've updated the Evernote app, so I have to take a look at it. So because the iOS, as I mentioned in this video that I did, it was just 3 weeks ago I recorded it. Android Evernote was not that good. I got my Android phone here. I haven't updated it. I'm going to check.
It's like a super new blog post too. It was out on May 5th.
Yeah, it's really current. Oh, wow. I was going like, what? How do I not know this?
Right.
But it's obvious that I don't know this. I'm going to open Evernote here while we're talking. You keep talking.
Is there a limit to storage in Evernote?
Yes, there is. If you have the free account, it's like 100 megabytes per month, which is plenty. And if you're in the premium version, it's way more. I have never ever run out of space.
All right. Do you ever have issues figuring out which app you have things in? Too many apps.
No, because I use the apps very, very heavily. We use Google Drive for everything that's written. I will sometimes write it first in Evernote, depending on where I am. But stuff that I want to share that other editors have to be part of, we typically put that in Google Drive. All of my personal stuff is in Evernote, and all of my kind of whiteboarding work I do in Evernote. So I don't really have an issue. I don't lose it. And I think where it's easy to lose things, far more than where content we create ourselves, is if you'd have a poor messaging strategy. If you are letting your team communicate with you in their preferred messaging app of choice. A lot of people like Skype, a lot of people like Facebook Messenger now. That's a big one. Then it's easy to lose and forget where that conversation is happening, or email. It's easy to lose it then. So no, I typically, that's one of the things that I think our system has eliminated. I don't know. Do either of you have issues with that?
No, I think I really try to use them. I definitely have tried many things. I try to delete them and just keep it as clean as possible, because I think when you download too many apps, you either don't use them. Even like from a video app, I had like 4 different video apps on there, but I only use one all the time. I think you just have to clean out the clutter regularly.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I will put them in folders and have, photo apps if I'm making a lot of graphics for social media or things like that. And I have a couple different apps that I like, but primarily I'll download a bunch, but if I find myself not using them, I delete them off because it just gets very crowded.
Yes.
Okay.
What was the name of the teleprompter app again?
PromptSmart.
Yes, we did put that.
And I think we'll send out an email after this webinar today with all of the links.
Okay, perfect. Where do you want? Oh no. Okay. Hi, Steve. PromptSmart. What holds your iPhone next to your camera?
I use a little. There's lots of different brackets you can buy, like on Amazon, but I use this one here, which has a little clampy thing here. See, there's a clamp, and it clamps on your desk. And on this end here, there's a clampy thing for your iPhone or your iPad. So that's the combination that I use, and then I just bend it until it's sitting right above my above the eye line that I'm looking at of the camera. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn good. You can also buy proper mirror setups where you can actually, but you'd need to have like a tripod of some sort for your webcam, or be using a DSLR or some other camera where you can actually set up a proper teleprompter with a mirror, and then you can, and PromptSmart will allow you to reverse the text on the iPad or the iPhone so that it then reflects properly as a proper teleprompter does. So then you're looking straight through into the lens. Even more good.
All right. Any thoughts on Task Manager, GQs, and Online Database Manager, Podio?
No, I've heard Podio is pretty good, but and GQ I don't know at all.
Okay.
There's so many task managers. Mike Vardy and I have a course on task managers. We went through 4 task managers, and we're overwhelmed. That's one of the areas that I'm not looking at the new ones as much, because you really have to dive in and use it on a daily basis. And I'm just so happy with Asana. Asana has, they've really stepped up their game. So everybody I talk to that uses it feels the same way. For a lot of us, the perfect task manager app search is over, just because Asana has, they've done something. They've just delivered.
Okay. What's the app you use to mirror your phone to screencast?
Okay. So with the iOS device by itself, and using ScreenFlow, which is the video editing package that I use, you can plug it just through the Lightning connection. You can actually make your camera a source in ScreenFlow. And you can also do the same thing if you're using Camtasia. Android phones are not quite as easy. And we go through Google Home, and you basically use you use Chromecast on your Chrome device, on your smartphone, on your Android smartphone, and then I use a tool called I forget the name of it. It's called just a minute, I'll look it up. I know that I don't know why. It's a kind of a funny name. It doesn't necessarily reflect exactly what the tool is. I'll find it. I'll just find it here. Just a minute. My apps. Just got to take a look at my applications. I just had one of those brain farts. It happens occasionally. It's my age. I'm sure it's my age. I hope it's my age. Okay. Reflector 2.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah. It's good, and it will allow you to also share iOS screens if you don't have ScreenFlow, and you can also do it in QuickTime. QuickTime will also allow you to capture the phone screen. Android screens are more difficult, so we use Chromecast and Reflector 2.
All right.
I have a video on it on the YouTube channel, by the way.
Okay, perfect. Let's see. Stored lots on Evernote, but still struggling a little bit with searching most effectively. What is the best resource to learn about this? Is there a training or past webinar you have done on this for Evernote?
What do they want training on?
Basically, it sounds like they're using Evernote and storing a lot of stuff on there, but they're having a hard time with the search feature, using it more effectively. Do you have a webinar? Or?
Yeah, well, it's part of the course. I say if you look into, I think we covered a little bit in a webinar I did with Brooks called "Solving the Paperless Puzzle" or "Going Paperless with Evernote." We've got one or two webinars on that, and I think we go into search a little bit there. But learning the search, how to do the proper search parameters in Evernote is one of the real kind of Evernote ninja skills. It's a whole module in the course.
Okay, I'll put that in there. Does Zoom enable you to have multiple people on screen? Do you do interviews on live broadcast, or can you do interviews?
It's switching right now, but you can, if you're in the meeting format, you can have multiple people on screen at the same time. I think in the webinar format, it does switching.
Okay. With the recent security challenges that Google has experienced, what are your thoughts, concern, recommendations going forward?
I think we should all be concerned constantly, but you have to weigh the convenience factor against the privacy factor. Making sure that you are paying attention to what's happening in the online space, that you use a good password manager, that you don't use cloud services like Evernote to store sensitive information. We have to protect our own privacy online. We can't expect anybody else to do it for us. So we have to be on top of what the potential is, and also understanding the architecture of how these different systems work. For example, with Evernote, Evernote is a cloud service where we have all of our notes stored on our phone or on our computer. And the beauty of that is it's mirrored through the cloud so that we have the same records on both. Well, that mirroring through the cloud means that there's a copy in the cloud. So if you have something that's sensitive, tax information, personal information that you don't want, that's more sensitive than normal content, then you should not be using Evernote's syncing services to have access to it on both your phone and your notebook. You can create a local notebook by understanding the architecture of the app. A local notebook means that it's only stored on your one computer, and it's not mirrored through the cloud. So it's still not 100% secure, but it's far more secure than if it was in the cloud. I hope that makes sense. You have to understand the nature of each of the apps that you use, and that's your responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Why do you use Patreon versus your own private platform or course platform?
Patreon is very cool from a perspective. The fact that people are there and it's a community-funded site means that almost the energy of the people on Patreon are not our customers, but they're our supporters. They're kind of our cheerleaders and our fans. So there's a whole different business relationship than if they were in our own membership area and they were our customers. I've got no problem with having a membership area and customers. But the nature of the dottotech community is far more, I want it to be a more nurturing and softer relationship than the business relationship that we have with people who buy our courses, etc. Now, patrons can go into that space and we give them breaks for it, but there's an entirely different feel to it. Plus, they do a great job of managing all of the content flow and also doing all of the collection and all of that sort of stuff. So it's a different vibe, really, to Patreon, which is a very positive experience. I can't say enough about how wonderful it is to see people signing up and what a charge it gives us all when we see somebody say, "Hey, Steve, April, Jen, we love your guys' content. We want to support you," and then they commit to giving us $10 a month, and it's just like, wow, it's so awesome. It adds more responsibility to us, but it also is very nurturing. So it's a kind of a softer, gentler, kinder relationship back and forth.
So Tammy is coming to the dark side. She's coming over to the iOS side from Android this month.
Is that the dark side? I think the dark side is based on perspective.
It is. I'm just giving you a hard time. And Greg, our friend Greg.
I got to share this. I got to share this before you do it. The reason I've got to go to Toronto early is I've got a speaking gig there next week. But a couple of days early, I have to go because I am doing for Rogers, our big local carrier here, phone carrier, I'm doing an unboxing video for Are You Sitting Down?
Uh-oh.
For the new BlackBerry. Stop laughing. I've looked at it. It's a very cool phone.
Steve, I'm concerned. Yesterday you were talking about getting the tablet, and now
I love the tablet. I've always loved the Surface tablet.
Yeah.
You just don't pay enough attention to what I say. Do you really listen to me when I talk?
No.
No, I didn't think so. Okay, let's go back to the question.
Okay, so her question was, so she is coming over to the iOS side. Do you have any good app suggestions other than, she said, great top 10, by the way, if she's made a list. So if you can make any other suggestions of iOS apps that you might recommend.
Yeah, the Helium Balloon app.
Yes.
No.
You don't know that one yet?
I kind of have given you my top. I'd be interested if any of you guys have apps that like if you're a Twitter user, I really like Tweetbot. If the Facebook app and Messenger are awesome for staying in touch with your friends.
Oh, that's truly an app. I
like Google Calendar as a calendar app by itself. I think Google Calendar is, just the entire Google suite is pretty rocking on it. But if you need photo filter apps and stuff like that, I'm not the expert on that stuff, but there's lots of good ones. Let us know something specifically that you may be interested in. We can give you more specific recommendations. So that's why I did the top 10 list. Those are my top apps. Now you're asking for number 11, and I'm not ready for that.
Oh, you know what? Opposite. I'm sorry, I misread. She's actually going from iOS to Android.
Oh.
See, she's going back to the dark side.
Okay. It's not a dark side.
I know. I'm just messing.
Is there anything on Android that's not on iOS that I think of? Nope, can't think of a thing. That's why we did the list of kind of universal apps.
All right, great. Wayne is saying...
Text Expander. Text Expander I don't think of as much on my phone because it doesn't work as well on the phone, but Text Expander is one of my all-time top apps for the desktop. Yes.
Did you cover video in your screen content? I think you just covered that. Can you set your own pricing in Patreon?
Yes. You can set whatever your perk levels are. So what happens is as you set up your community, people can contribute whatever dollar value they want, but you set up perks or benefits based on contribution. And so that's one of the nice things about it is how it sets up those perks.
All right, Val's asking, love these videos, Steve. How about your thoughts on HubSpot? This is a big one. HubSpot, Constant Contact, Close, Zapier, IFTT, Push Bullet, connecting with to-do list and others to streamline your laptop, phone, to-do list, and your calendar, email, text apps. What are your recommendations? It's a big question.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think there was multiple questions in there.
Yes.
The first was, what is my thoughts about HubSpot, Constant Contact? Okay. So we're talking about email-based kind of CRMs and customer relationship management tools. And you're talking about two vastly different ends of the spectrum when you're talking about HubSpot and you're talking about Constant Contact. And actually, April is one of the experts on this. That's what her job on our team is, to manage our CRM, which we use Infusionsoft. I think that depending on where you are in your process of, if you're in the online business world, that you should be paying a lot of attention to setting up your CRM and building your community and building your mail list in a good, solid fashion. And right now, I think if I was starting out, man, it's tough to beat a product like ConvertKit with all of the different pieces it has and the price it has. I don't know, April, if you're looking at a starting level product that's going to give you a lot of headroom to kind of move ahead.
The only thing that I'm finding with ConvertKit is deliverability on emails right now is not. The open rates are really low on lots of different campaigns.
Okay. So doing some research on it. Now, can you use your own server, or can you modify? We'll get in the weeds here at any rate. So the bottom line, though, as far as these go, is setting up a good quality CRM that you can capture leads into and that you can email to your list is absolutely crucial. HubSpot is way out there. It's fairly expensive. It's when you have large lists. I made the conversion from what I consider the very basic list manager, which is I used Aweber, but MailChimp, Aweber, MMail, they're all kind of in that family. I made the conversion when I hit about 9,000 subscribers. And at that point, there was a breaking point. I don't know what other people consider the breaking point, but at that point there, I thought it was worthwhile for me to move up. And I chose, at the time I made the migration, it was really came down to two, Entreporter and Infusionsoft. I chose Infusionsoft for no good reason other than the fact that I had to make a decision. There's so much of a muchness between the two. Once you've chosen your tool, don't look at the other tools. Don't worry about what other tools do. Master your tool. Dive into it. Now, April will verify. She's in charge of our Infusionsoft, but I drive her crazy because I'm in there every day figuring out what it does, setting things up myself, breaking things, because it's probably the most important piece of software to our business. And so as I'm building our business strategies, if I don't understand what the most important tools do, I'm not going to be a good leader. We're not going to be able to do our thing properly. So I am always in there, with my sleeves rolled up, sometimes breaking things, but that's why we've got somebody like April to fix them. But so you have to know that product, you have to commit to it, and then it'll serve you well. Once you're into it, it doesn't matter whether it's the best one or not. You make it the best one. So.
Steve, say hi. Melanie Dodaro is on, and she says, we're demoing your Facebook Live right now for an audience.
Oh,
so
good.
I don't know who the audience is.
I saw her just ping me. Hello, Melanie. That's good. So we're actually, Melanie, just so you know and your team knows, we're actually streaming this through Zoom. Zoom has a Facebook Live integration. So this is a Zoom webinar that we're sending to our community that we have people registered for in Zoom, now watching on Facebook Live, now watching it extended out on Facebook Live. Wow, that's viral growth. Thanks, Melanie. We missed you in Victoria this year. Okay.
And Vivica's watching as well. She says, hello, Steve. Just wanted to let you know we are here watching.
Does Vivica ever work?
I think she's telling you to behave, Steve. That's her way of saying, I'm here, you better behave.
Okay, so
but I did ask her what her apps are. She loves Zoom for webinars, and the off button is her favorite app. So I've never heard of that one.
She's being facetious.
Oh, is she? Okay.
Yeah, she's disengaging. Okay, that's a good idea.
Oh, the off. Oh, wow.
The off button, you get it?
She got me.
Yeah, she got you good. April, the second part of that question was they were asking about Pushbullet, which is a fairly cool little desktop utility that allows you to send content from one thing to another. We've got a video on it in the dottotech channel. So actually, Jen, if you can grab that and drop it in, we've got a demo on Pushbullet if you're interested in it. What were the other apps she was asking about?
Zapier.
Zapier is it's like manna from heaven, making sure things integrate. So when you're looking at a project and you need one app to talk to another app that don't have native integration, Zapier is probably going to step in, or Zapier is going to step in and fill in the gaps. We all use it. It's you know what it is? It's duct tape for the internet marketers.
Part of the question too was how all of those could streamline into the Todoist. Yeah. And
I don't know exactly how they all go into
from laptop to phone.
Well, Zapier will connect with Todoist depending on what app you have to send things to. But Todoist is kind of your to-do app. So it's, I need more specifics, but they will all work together. Almost every app you've talked about will work together. But it depends on your use case.
Yeah. And that's a lot of apps. Obviously, you can never find a tool that's going to be all in one. But if you could minimize some of those to work together to make it more effective.
Todoist is really good, and a lot of people use it as a personal task manager, and it works great for that. It's okay as a team task manager, but I don't think it holds a candle right now to what Asana is doing as far as team task management goes. And I see Jane is asking, is Zapier better than IFTTT? IFTTT is kind of the open source one. It's free. It does most of the same things, but it's kind of just, it's not quite as refined.
And I think what Zapier brings too is that if it's connected already to an app, you can actually make a request to have another thing connect if you want it to do something. And Zapier is very open to that and making that happen. It doesn't matter if you're a solopreneur or you're a big company, they listen.
And you can get people to build the integrations for you. Yeah. We're going to be doing one next week. As a matter of fact, we've got a project for that.
We do.
One app I love and use is called WeatherBug. It is a great weather app and saved us from driving into 2 F5 tornadoes in Oklahoma. Oh, Mark's sharing about the app and WeatherBug and how he likes it.
Good one.
What do you use for ongoing notes, like writing on Notepad as you work on your PC?
I use Evernote. Evernote for all of that. Evernote's always open. I've always got a tab. I use because of my productivity system. We did a webinar earlier called Dealing with Distraction. So I use a single monitor so that I can focus on one thing at a time. But I use multiple desktops on that monitor. I'm using my fingers going back and forth because that's how you swipe back and forth between them. But I always have one of my screens has Slack and Evernote always open in it, available to me. And it's the same screen with both because it's all about communications and note taking. And that's how I set things up. So I always have Evernote open. So I'm just saving things in Evernote all the time.
All right, cool. Somebody's doorbell's ringing.
Hi.
No. Jean is asking LastPass. She uses Dashlane and wants your opinion about Dashlane. She seems to be having some issues. Is LastPass something better than Dashlane?
I would not say LastPass is better than Dashlane. I wouldn't put a value on any because I haven't honestly tested them under that kind of stress test. If you don't like what's happening with Dashlane, it's fairly easy to convert over. LastPass is a little bit less expensive. It got bought by Ignite, the guys that do Ignite, and so they're part of a larger company now. And I was concerned about that when that first happened, but I haven't seen any degradation in the quality. In fact, they keep improving the interface. 1Password is another great one. The key is to use it regardless of which one you're in. And if you're unhappy with Dashlane, I don't think that you'll be at all unhappy with LastPass. I know I'm not. We use it as a team, and it's something that we all use within our organization here. But 1Password is the equal, as far as I'm concerned, but it costs more. Good Canadian company though.
Speaking of Sunrise, what is your favorite calendar now? We use Google Apps.
I just use Google.
Okay.
Yeah, waiting for something better to come along. Nothing's come.
And really don't like the Google Calendar app. Finish that off.
Fair point. Yeah, there's just no great. Sunrise was it. That was the bomb. There'll never be another Sunrise.
Do you use Dropbox?
Yes, we use it all the time. We have it set up, and we use it for primarily we use it in the video editing side of our business. I use it with our editor, and we use it for all of our files there and exchanging things back and forth. But the whole team uses it a little bit. Jen uses it somewhat for all of the thumbnails for our YouTubes, where they're created elsewhere and where we keep all of the source files. So yeah, we use it a lot.
Just to give you a heads up, it's about 2:05. We're a little bit past the top of the hour. So
we will let everybody, anybody that has to go now, the webinar replay will be sent out to you in a few hours. It takes me a couple of hours to get it all edited and packaged up. It's going to be available for you for 48 hours. Check your email tomorrow with the newsletter that goes out. We will have a registration for our webinar next week, which is on Twitter. First time we've ever done anything on Twitter. And OPC, other people's content. Which is it might be a little bit controversial. Some people might disagree philosophically with how we do things. That's okay. You're allowed to do that. But we're still going to keep doing it our way, and we'll show you how to do it. So anybody that has to leave for now, thanks so much. Have fun storming the castle, and we'll finish off the questions. How many questions do we have? Do we have a lot still?
We do.
Okay, well, let's keep going. Let's try and pick up the pace then.
All right. Geez. Do you have any comments on Klaviyo? Klaviyo. Klaviyo.
No. The name's familiar, but I don't even know why. But I don't have any comments on it. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. How are you dealing with Asana not syncing with Google Calendar in real time?
Doesn't bother me. We use the Asana calendar for anything so when I'm in Asana and I'm dealing with those tasks, I have the Asana calendar up. So that's what I look at as far as an editorial schedule. So I haven't even noticed it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Do you have any password apps allow you for your phone? Does Lastpass have like a Android or Mac feature that you can use on your phone?
Both.
For your passwords?
Both.
Okay. What do you use for email?
For email? Typically just Gmail.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I've tried them all, and they've all got nice features, but I keep coming back to Gmail.
Do you still use Webinar Jam or Zoom?
We use both, and right now we're in Zoom. Webinar Jam had a few issues, and that's going to happen especially when they're doing a complete redesign of the product. I'm not off the Webinar Jam bandwagon by any stretch of the imagination. Each one has its own strengths, and that's really what our course on winning at webinars is about. It's the type of webinars you do, making sure you have the right tool and that you're using that tool properly is a big part of that course. So I really can't say one is better than the other because it really depends what your use case is. But you can see we delivered a webinar today, which was a hybrid webinar. The video quality is not quite what I want, and the recording isn't quite what I want, but the interaction is great. The chat isn't quite as good, but the quality and the lack of lag time is brilliant. So Zoom has got its place. It really depends on what you're using it for.
Okay. How do you decide when to use Dropbox versus Google Drive?
I almost never use Google Drive. I find Google Drive a little bit confusing, and I like Dropbox better for that reason. But so it's really just personal choice and personal skill set.
Any preferred open house apps for realtors?
Wouldn't know.
Okay. Are you going to share your video? We've answered some of the. What do you feel is the safest cloud storage for sensitive documents?
Not storing it in the cloud. I don't know if anything's safe. Seriously.
Yeah.
Do an encryption first. Encrypting it first. Encrypting the information before you store it.
No, let's see. Personal productivity. Do you use electronic notes as you work?
Yes. In Evernote all the time.
All right. Your folder system seems to be much more organized than mine. Can you talk a little bit about it? It's off topic. Sorry.
Oh, so that's Evernote? Yeah, my folder system is far more organized than it really is too, because I tend to use my inbox for almost everything in search, and it's only every once in a while that I actually sort things into my folders or specific things. Like my accounting folder has all my accounting data. The beauty of Evernote is if you want to have structure, if you're that type of personality that likes to have the structure, you can have it. If not, search works so well that you can live with absolutely no structure as long as you know how to search.
Mm-hmm. With each of these apps, my big concern is an exit strategy for my valuable data if a developer discontinues the product. This is the big reason I haven't gone to Evernote despite its great functionality. Perhaps a future topic could be Plan B for each of these.
That's a great idea. And we talk about that in our course, and Evernote doesn't give you a great plan B. You can export your documents as an Evernote, and I think as HTML, or as you can also export them, I think, into PDFs if you choose. But yeah, that's a bit of an issue. That's why we don't want a company like Evernote to go away. But yeah, that might be a good one. That's kind of down in the weeds, but and I'm not sure I'm best. That's an interesting topic. We'll think about it. Good suggestion.
Yeah, that is a good suggestion. Do you use Dropbox to store and deliver document workbooks, etc.?
Occasionally, yes. We'll use it. I use Evernote actually a lot for that. We distribute our courses. Some of our courses, our Evernote course, for example, is all distributed using Evernote as a distribution platform because you can use it that way as well. So we use whatever tool is right for the job. Sometimes we just use our own services on the web. Like we have on our website, we can have an upload manager and an FTP functionality that's built in if we have workbooks or something like that. We can also store them and share them as Dropbox links. We do it in a variety of different ways, depending on the project that we're working on.
Okay. What would you recommend to encrypt files with? Is 72, I think it's 72 encryption fairly secure?
I don't know. I'm not really an expert on that level of encryption. So a quick search, you'll find people that are far more versed than I am on that.
All right. And do you feel that Google Keep is on par with Evernote?
No, it's the junior varsity. It's good. I've still never done a demo on it. People keep asking me to do a demo on it, and I should. But it's and if you don't need all the functionality of Evernote, and Google Keep is a great option. If there was no Evernote, I'd probably be in love with it. But I started with Evernote, so I kind of got history there. So I'm always going to be a little bit biased.
All right. I think that is it. You've answered all of these at some point, so there's some repeat questions, but from earlier. So I think you're good. Somebody was asking about the recording and being live and being able to get a list of those clickable links of the apps.
Yeah, we'll have that in the follow-up email.
I have just two quick ones here from Facebook Live.
Excellent.
Kim was wondering, as far as a contributor on Patreon, she is in Canada, you're in Canada, but the $10 is deducted in U.S. funds.
Yeah, they're a U.S. service. There's just they don't have the ability to do everything that they do is in U.S. dollars. That's just the nature of that particular beast.
Yeah. And then Lisa was wondering if you have a course on Dropbox.
No.
We do have some. I'm going to drop in a video here. We've got the latest one was about 5 months ago.
A little bit dated too. But it's one that's on our refresh list. Yeah.
But I'll drop the newest one we have is 5 months ago. I'll go ahead and drop that one in there for you, Lisa.
Yeah.
All right. I think that is a wrap, my friend.
Good.
Nice work.
Excellent, Smithers. So that's it. So thank you very much, April. Thank you, Jen. Folks, check your email tomorrow. We will be sending out a follow-up with the webinar replay. You know what we should do is we should put the link in. Brilliant. We should always put the registration for the next webinar in the replay link. So we have to get that together.
Yeah.
Got to get our act together. That's a good idea, isn't it?
That is.
Always thinking. So that we'll make sure that that's there. We'll have a summary from this and all of the products we talked about. The replay link, 48 hours. Share it with your friends if you're interested. That's it. Who wants to say goodbye?
Jen.
Go for it, April.
No, I'm not ready.
I'll do
you're
it.
ready. Okay.
Till next time, folks.
You're storming the castle.
Have a fun storming the castle.